2020 has gone rather quiet outside, especially when people decided to lock themselves in their home thanks to recent events. I locked myself so much that I decided to ditch the formal outfit. I mean, for real though, they get uncomfortable at times. Thankfully, game releases don't stop, and in terms of big new releases, we have the choice to either play the new Animal Crossing or the new Doom. And I opted to play the new Doom alongside Trails of Cold Steel 3 on PC, which will be released around a day at the time of writing this video. Oh, and I also need to finish the new Worry so that I can do a video on that one too. Now that I finished Doom Eternal, these are my thoughts on it and whether or not you should buy it, or not buy it, because Bethesda accidentally released the non-DRM version of the exe file, which means that the pirates can get to play this game at day 1. They don't get to preload the game, however, and that's why Steam is awesome, or at least the day before the game is released. Before we get slaying, this video is brought to you by my wonderful patrons and donators. You can support this channel by checking the links down below. Also, huge thanks to Haruka for the pledge on Patreon. You are fantastic. Doom Eternal is the next installment of the rebooted Doom franchise from id Software after the absolutely phenomenal Doom 2016. While Doom 2016 was an amazing game, it did leave a lot of people hanging with that ending, and this is where Eternal picks up the pace. Just like Doom 2 Hell on Earth, the demons finally invaded Earth, and it's up to you, the Doom Slayer, to take them down. They invaded your turf, and now it's your turn to take it back. Kill all the demons and continue this seemingly eternal fight. An eternal fight that you, the player, will participate in. Exciting, isn't it? Doom 2016 is one of my favorite games of that year. Not necessarily my favorite of all time, but it's definitely amongst one of the best modern first-person shooters in a while. If you're interested in a first-person shooter in the style of retro 90s shooter like Doom, but you find the pixelated graphics a bit crap, then Doom 2016 pretty much recaptures the spirit of the fast-paced shooting of the original while having all the modern things that you Zoomers want, like 4K graphics and smooth animation. In a world where the AAA landscape is populated by battle royale multiplayer shooters, it's nice to see a AAA shooter that recaptures the spirit of classic 90s shooters, which, come to think of it, is what a lot of non-AAA game developers try to do these days. So it's no surprise that Eternal is one of my most anticipated game of this year. On the surface, Eternal is basically more of 16 with a lot more additions and tweaks into the formula. And if that's what you think Doom Eternal is, you are correct. Doom Eternal is basically more of 16 with a lot more additions and tweaks to the formula. So if you're one of those people who thought Doom 16 wasn't great, then rest assured, Doom Eternal is not gonna change your mind, nor it will change into your typical mainstream battle royale game. Actually, it's already technically battle royale. It's 1 versus 100,000 millions. And since I love Doom 16, logically I would love Doom Eternal even more, right? Oh, hell yes I do. I absolutely love Doom Eternal. In the year of nothing but people locking themselves up in their homes due to current events, Doom Eternal provides such a breathtakingly refreshing experience. It's a joy to play through this game, especially playing it on Ultra Violence. I did try Nightmare, but it kicked my ass, so I drop it one more level and I find it comfortably challenging. Not exactly power fantasy, but not frustratingly difficult either. So let's talk about the combat. When the game starts, it was a bit slow at first, and you're only equipped with your shotgun and later your heavy machine gun, which is strange because the first game equipped us with a pistol that has infinite ammo. And this is where the difference between 16 and Eternal comes in. Instead of having a pistol with infinite ammo, this time you have your chainsaw with infinite ammo. And by infinity, I mean it will eventually recharge itself into one pip, where you can use it to extract ammo from the lower tier demons. And don't worry, these lower tier demons like your zombies or your imps will always spawn around, so if you lose all your available ammo to all your weapons, you can always find a zombie walking around and extract the ammo from their bodies. This is a change that I freaking love. It encourages me to actually use the useful weapons a lot more and explore the areas around. And while I do miss the pistol, it's not exactly a useful weapon in the late game, whereas the chainsaw will always be useful. And speaking of change, there are a couple of new additions in Doomslayer's arsenal. Compared to 16, Doomslayer in Eternal is a lot more agile, mobile, and flexible, and he's already very fragile and flexible at 16. You get the double jump very early on in the game, and that's very cool. Love that. You also get the ability to dash in whatever direction you like, kind of like Ori or Cuphead. With these two things, it makes a lot of combat situations more fast-paced and intense, which can be a bit daunting for people who played 16, but once you get used to with the combat, you can really get things going. Doomslayer also has other combat abilities to assist him. First one is the Blood Punch ability, which is basically a punch that will straight up annihilate all the demons around you, kind of like Iron Fist. Second, there's a Flame Belch, which will set enemies on fire and allows you to extract armor points towards those that caught fire. Third is the Ice Bomb, which does exactly what you expect ice bombs would do. What I find very funny is that you can freeze a group of enemies and also torch them with a Flame Belch and finishing them with a Blood Punch. The game allows you to make such a devastating combo, even if it doesn't make any sense. And every single time I pulled it off, it's ridiculously fun. Oh, and there's a sword in the game which you can use to insta-kill a couple of demons. Nothing special about that, really. What about the demons themselves? What are the new demons being added to the new world of Doom? The most notable one that people got really pissed off at was the Marauders, and I thought, really? They're not that bad to deal with. Just blast them with double shotgun when they're exposed and quickly switch to the new ballista weapon. What I am really annoyed by was the Archvils. They're just about as annoying as they were in Doom 2, where with them being able to not only spawn enemies, but buff them into ridiculousness. Their fire attacks are devastating enough to kill me in a lot of times because it has area of effect attacks and I was simply too careless. The rest of the enemies are either buffed or nerfed. The zombies are definitely buffed because you cannot do the one-hit kill on the zombies anymore, which is what I always do in Doom 2016. I kind of feel bad for the Revenants as they are incredibly tough in the old games, but they get more and more nerfed as time goes on in the newer ones. And this is especially true for the enemies that have obvious weak points, such as the Kako demons, where you can just shoot a grenade with your shotgun to their mouths, and they will always swallow it. It's like handing a chewing gum to a baby. But despite the weird buffing and nerfing of the demons, I like that the demons have weak points and recommended weapons to deal with them. Yes, that makes some of them incredibly weak, but that also gives the combat more variety and versatility and requires you to switch to different weapons to deal with different demons. I like that the game talks about their weak points and recommends you the necessary tactics. I like that you can visually distinct the damage that you have done to the demons, and some of them have to adapt with the things that you damage, like how spider demons would straight up melee you if they lost their range weapons. The demons themselves would definitely provide quite a challenge for those of you who are looking for it. If there's one thing that I don't like about the combat is this new extra life thing. It's one of the game's hidden collectibles, and while collecting them is fun, actually having to use them in combat is just dumb for the normal mode players. The idea is, if your health drops down to 0, the game's extra life will resurrect you with full health, but I don't want it to resurrect me. I want to die with actual dignity. I want to start from checkpoint and save my extra lives for other things, like when I'm fighting bosses and I don't care about getting damage all the time. This might be good for the classic mode that actually relies on extra life, but for people who just want a normal experience, it's a hindrance, and I would love for the game to have the option for the normal experience to just keep the normal life, because I don't mind restarting the game from checkpoint. Also, speaking of dying, there's one thing that Doom Eternal need to improve, and that's the death animation department. Doom Eternal promised more death animations and glory kills for the demons, and they did deliver, but instead what they decided to cut away entirely was those little bits of animation that happens when you got killed by a demon. It's always rather generic. In Doom 16, if you got killed by a demon, almost every single one of them would have a unique animation that accompanies it, and it's important to make you really piss off at the demon who actually took you down. This one doesn't have that animation, or at least as far as I know, and I'm a little disappointed. Regardless, Doom Eternal's combat is beyond satisfactory. It greatly enhances the already amazing combat of Doom 16 with a lot of additional features that make the game more mobile, more flexible, and more satisfying to play. If you want more Doom 16 but you also want more tweaks to the formula that make it fresh and new, then this is definitely the Doom game for you. Now let's talk about the rest of the game's elements, which are plentiful. Of course, it's not a Doom game without the exploration elements, and while this game is mostly linear, you do have the option at the very end to go back into the key locations around the map so that you can fast travel to them and find all the secrets that you miss. And there are tons and tons of secrets in the game, and you can actually finish them and access all of them in your first try of the level without needing any sort of upgrade. You just need to find a way to access them, and I love that more than having to collect all the necessary upgrades first, like Metroidvanias in general. That being said, the secrets are a lot easier to find, especially when the game straight up tells you where it is with one of the upgrades, which doesn't really make them secrets anymore. There are only a handful of them that I have to Google, and occasionally that does mean that I am the dumb one. The exploration is made more and more appealing thanks to the game looking really damn good. This is a stunning and beautiful looking game, or at least as stunning and beautiful as Destroyed Earth and Hellish populous landscapes go. There are some parts in the game that would make you genuinely uncomfortable, like being around the gory bits off of demons and having those freaking tentacles to come out of the ground and just stab the living crap out of you. The game does look very atmospheric, and there are things in the game that genuinely make me to look in awe, like those titans wandering around Nerf in the background. Those look stunning. And of course, your entire exploration and combat is accompanied with Mick Gordon's sick soundtrack. The game's opening is one of the most chill-inducing openings that I have ever seen in any video game ever. Mick Gordon opted to remix At Doom's Gate for the Eternal opening, and oh boy, it pretty much sends the chills down my spine. But one of the things that I absolutely loathe in the game is the upgrade system, which is still just as bad as they were in Doom 16. The game has tons and tons of upgrades for a lot of things in the game, and yet no upgrade for the chainsaw. No, seriously, the chainsaw doesn't get any sorts of upgrade, which means that they will always hold 3 cans of fuel and will only recharge to 1. I ended up with so many weapon upgrade points and Praetor suit points and nothing. And I mean nothing to spend them on. Not even the chainsaw. And Doomslayer has his own fortress in space where you can unlock some things using these Sentinel batteries, but the problem is only a handful of them are useful, like the crystals, while the rest are just things that are way too common for me to get around the map, or freaking skins if you're into that sort of thing. And if you don't want to spend them on skins, they're basically just a waste of your storage space. And speaking of upgrades, can I talk about how dumb and easily exploitable the mastery upgrade system is? You still cannot upgrade your weapon's damage or rate of fire or any other general stuff that are actually useful. All you can upgrade was the weapon's mods, which granted I use very frequently, or at least one of them for each weapon. It's just that I hate the fact that you have to do those mastery challenges to fully upgrade them. Thankfully, the game records your progress even if you reload a checkpoint, so I ended up just reloading myself on the same checkpoint, spawning in the same area, and just keep on doing what the mastery asked me to do, like kill 5 enemies while in turret mode for the chain gun. It's unnecessary padding, and the game acknowledged this by giving you mastery tokens that let you skip it entirely, which is great for those who don't want to do it, except they give it at the very end parts of the game, and that's at the point where I already upgraded most of the mastery upgrades that I genuinely need, so good job game for giving me upgrades too freaking late. Thankfully, the game loads really damn fast, maybe because I'm running the game off of an NVMe SSD, but I tried running the game on a more normal SATA SSD and the game still loads at a shockingly fast speed, so put this game on an SSD, whether it be SATA or NVMe. I highly recommend that. As for the technical stuff in general, I played this game on my Acer Nitro 7 with an Intel Core i7-9750H and a GTX 1660 Ti. The game runs really well and managed to consistently get 60 FPS on high settings at 1080p, and I highly recommend using the high settings instead of the only barely noticeably good Ultra or Ultra Nightmare. There are times where the game just bugged out, and there are times where the game would interrupt you from killing demons just to say that you got disconnected from Bethesda or something, and I absolutely love that. Must have not been an issue for the crackers. Also, remember to update your drivers because the game initially didn't run for me because I use my Nvidia Studio driver, so keep that in mind. In conclusion, Doom Eternal is basically everything that I love about Doom 16 plus a lot more, and I love Doom 16, so I can safely say that I love Doom Eternal even more. It has more gameplay features, more demons, more versatility in the combat, and it managed to keep itself fresh and new for perhaps even decades from now. I absolutely love every second of this game. It's pure, joyful, good old first-person shooter bliss that rocks in almost every level, and it was quite fun to not just beat the living hell out of the demons, but also explore around and hunt for secrets and collectibles. With that being said, this is one of those games that are made only for people who absolutely love Doom 16, and since there are a lot of people who love Doom 16, recommending this game to them is a no-brainer, especially when I finish the single-player campaign proper while collecting all the collectibles for around 17 hours. However, if you're for one reason after another didn't like Doom 16, or you have no interest to the Doom franchise in general, then this is a game that you can happily skip in favor of something more time-sinking like Animal Crossing, which, come to think of it, should have been the one that has the Eternal subtitle on it.